So hello everybody, my name is Katrin Prentice and I will be your host tonight on this webinar. Thank you so much for taking your time and attending. I just basically wanted to say hello, that's why I have my camera on, but in a moment when I start the actual presentation of the webinar, I'll switch it off so that you can just basically focus mainly on the PowerPoint presentation. Before we go into the actual PowerPoint, I'd like to explain a few things about how this platform works. Unfortunately, well, I'm not sure if it's unfortunately, but all of the participants at this webinar will not be able to talk. So if you have a question or a comment, you need to use the windows for the chat or the Q&A. At some computers, the bar with all the buttons for Zoom platform might be either on the bottom of the screen or at the top of the screen. For me, at the moment, currently, it's at the top. Please check which location of the screen the bar is and find where the Q&A and also the chat windows are. These are the only ways that we will be able to communicate. I will monitor them regularly, so even throughout the presentation, so that if you have a question or a comment, I will do my best to see it and will respond in time. All right. This webinar is recorded. However, it will not be sent out to all the participants. This recording is will be available on the students only or members only website of NOAA Manhattan. The webinar series that you are attending currently are part of the continuous professional support which NOAA Manhattan provides to all of its students. The topics covered in this webinar series are the ones that are included in the Practitioner Coach Diploma course, and therefore these recordings will be available on the platform for members only in the section of the Practitioner Coach Diploma course. All right, so with this introduction, I will switch my camera off and we'll continue only viewing the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. Just one moment, please. All right, here we go. So the topic of our webinar tonight will be the 4 pillars of coaching. There you go. Now, why are we going to cover the 4 pillars of coaching? I would dare say that many of you have already heard this topic before or have come across materials along the lines. However, as this is our first webinar for the year on the topics of the Practitioner Coach Diploma course, we decided that it'll be very important to begin with this fundamental point, which is crucial and really key in understanding what coaching is and isn't. Okay. Before I continue, I just want to say a few words about myself as a speaker. As I said in the beginning, my name is Katrin Prentice, and I am part of the NOAA Manhattan Coaching faculty. I'm a trainer, mentor, and a final assessor. I have been doing various projects in the field of personal development and coaching for the last 14 years. My husband and I, Brian Prentice is my husband, we're the master distributors for NOAA Manhattan Coaching in the Balkans region. We're currently located in Bulgaria. However, we cover an area of 9 countries around us. And this year we celebrate 5 years since we launched the NOAA Manhattan Coach training programs in Bulgaria, which we're very happy about. And we're very happy to see so many of our Bulgarian students on tonight's call. Now, Manhattan Coaching as a company is the longest existing company in the world that offers coach training programs. And currently we're trading in 28 countries around the world, and we offer accredited executive life and corporate coach training programs in 6 different languages: in English, Polish, Bulgarian, Romanian, Greek, Turkish, Spanish. Now, looking at the foundations that make what coaching is. With this call, we'll try to cover a few very key points that set coaching aside as a profession. Before we delve into the 4 pillars of coaching, however, I'd like to start with an interesting fact about coaching. How many of you did not know that 90% of coaching is being delivered on the phone? Now, this is a very interesting fact. For some, it may come as a surprise. For others, may not. But what makes this fact very interesting is in regards to the various possibilities that the option of having coaching on the phone or on Skype in modern day, all the options this provides to the coach as well as for the clients. What are the benefits of having the possibility to deliver coaching via Skype or phone? Again, if you wish to participate, you can always drop a line in the chat window or in the Q&A window. All right, some of the benefits are, for example, I as a coach can live in a location which I choose because I like being there, or I want to be there, and not because my job requires me to be in a location. All right, currently I'm based in Bulgaria. However, I have clients in England, in Bosnia, of course in Bulgaria. However, they do not live in Sofia. So me being in a location such as the capital of Bulgaria does not limit me as far as where my clients could be. Before we moved to Bulgaria, we have lived for 12 years in Romania. There also, my clients were not just Romanians. However, I had clients in other countries as well. That's one of the benefits of the coaching profession per se. The market there really is your whole world. You're not limited to one location, to one city, town, or village, or community, but you can really reach out to people in different continents and countries. Now, what happens, however, when you live in a location, for example, I live in Sofia. So what happens if I have clients that live in Sofia? Well, whether you conduct your coaching on the phone or Skype or in person is really up to you, between you and your client, to agree on and decide. For example, if you and your client live in the same location, of course you have the option of meeting face-to-face, sitting down for coffee and having your coaching session in person. However, you also have the option of conducting on the phone. Personally, I prefer the Skype option, even if I'm in Sofia. But this is my personal preference. Usually I discuss it with clients. And of course, it also depends on the topics and the type of coaching that we're doing. If it's live coaching, it's easier to do it on Skype. However, if you're conducting executive coach sessions, many executives would prefer that you actually show up in the office where they work and have the session face-to-face. That is more accepted. Although it's not impossible to do also executive coaching on the phone. What other benefits might there be in having the option of doing the Skype call during coaching? Something else which is very important as a benefit is the costing of the coaching relationship, the cost for the coaching sessions. When you enter into a coaching relationship with a client, at the beginning of your relationship, you would be agreeing with them on the price per the length of the coaching sessions that you will be providing. When this happens over Skype, the new client has the benefit of only having to pay for the actual amount of time of your coaching session together. However, imagine if you had to travel from a city to another city. For example, we have clients and students in Greece as well. I live in Sofia, and our next event, for example, is in Thessaloniki. And what if a coach in Sofia had to go visit in person a client in Thessaloniki? That is quite a bit of a distance to cover, and the client will end up having to pay to the coach not only for the actual coaching session, but all the other expenses that they incurred so that the travel can happen. Traveling costs, time, accommodation in that particular situation, which putting it all together, this makes a coaching experience quite expensive and costly. So having the option of doing it via Skype greatly helps the client in reducing the cost of the coaching and makes it more convenient for both sides, both the coach and the client. Now, what could be the drawbacks of this? Sometimes, okay, I see somebody made a comment. Hello, Venete. Nice to have you on the call. All right, some of the drawbacks of having coaching via Skype or phone. In many cases, most people would react that one of the drawbacks would be that the physical connection, the visual connection with the client is not there. Therefore, you cannot read the body language, you cannot read the language of the eyes, or you cannot see how the client reacts, and so forth, which, of course, you can do when you have the face-to-face coaching session. However, it's very interesting that there have been research and evidence that shows that very often people open up a lot more and a lot easier when they talk and communicate with somebody whom they do not see. It has been proven that people open up about their dreams, about their plans, about their hopes a lot more readily in situations when they have to talk with an invisible person and partner. In the same way, they can be a lot more honest about their fears, their so-called gremlins, the things that frighten them or worry them, and explore these things and find solutions a lot more easily if they communicate with somebody who is not there face to face. So these are interesting principles, and to keep in mind when you build a coaching relationship with the client. Of course, our goal is not to teach you to be a telephone coach. That's not what we do. We're teaching you to be an excellent coach and handle any sort of situation that you are in with a client. However, knowing that 90% of coaching happens on the phone or Skype is a piece of information. It's a fact that can help you by deciding which is the best option for your particular situation with your individual client. Okay. Moving on with the other with the foundations of coaching. Now, the first thing to remember when you go into a coaching session is that the agenda for the coaching session always comes from the client. What would that mean? And why would we even make it a point of discussion? Well, this means that when you go into a coaching relationship, it is not you as the coach who decides what the session will be about, or the direction of the session, or what the coach should be, or what the client should be getting out of the session. You're there to support your client in reaching the goals that he or she has set for herself or himself. This is why in some of the models that coaches use during coaching sessions, the first things that you discuss with the client have to do with setting the topic of the session as well as the goal for the session. These are two very important things to discuss with the client at the beginning of each session to make sure that you understand what their agenda is all about. Another very, very important and fundamental principle of coaching is that coaching is non-judgmental. What does it mean to be non-judgmental? This means that for a good coach, it should not matter what the client is. It shouldn't matter. It should not matter for the coach whether the client is black or white or yellow, if he's tall or short, if he's rich or poor. It shouldn't matter their background, it shouldn't matter the culture, it shouldn't matter the religion, it shouldn't matter the financial status. A good coach should look at their client, and the only thing that they should see is a person full of incredible potential. Now, the question is, it does sound very good that let's all be non-judgmental. However, how easy really this is? Is it possible for us not to be judgmental? Well, the facts are that we are all human beings and we are all judgmental to one degree or another. Why? Because we all are influenced constantly by the family we have grown in, the culture we live in, the school we have attended, the university we have graduated, the circle of friends that we have. We're influenced by the media, by interactions with other people, by neighbors. All of these things influence us and influence the way we react to the world, the way we perceive people, the way we perceive right and wrong, the way we even, it also influences our value system. We all carry quite a lot of personal, quote-unquote, baggage, if you like, which determines and influences the way we react to the environment and to people. So what does that mean? Do we all need to all of a sudden become perfect so that we can become good coaches? No, the good news is we don't have to be perfect. In fact, we cannot be perfect. So what do we really need then in order to be the best coach we can possibly be and apply the principle of being non-judgmental? What we need to do is simply being willing to learn, being open to grow, and being willing, open, and ready to change and to keep learning how to take off the garments of our judgments and leave them aside when we enter into a conversation or interaction with another human being. Leave all of our preconceived ideas, continue to learn how to distance ourselves from our judgments, leaving them aside and really learning how to accept and view the other person as a clean slate, as a person with immense and great potential. It takes practice, but the good news is you can learn to be better. And that's all there is to it. That's all that's needed. Your willingness to keep learning and keep practicing to take off these judgments off your shoulders. And after a while, something wonderful actually happens. There comes a point when you realize that the garment of those judgments and preconceived ideas actually are quite heavy weights on your shoulders. And after a while, you realize how much better and happier it is to live without putting them back on. And then you have a choice. You can always choose to either leave them or pick them up and carry them. But in most cases, when people practice being non-judgmental, the good and beautiful thing that happens is that we learn to appreciate not having to carry the heavy burden of judgment. Another fundamental principle of coaching is that it is non-directional. Non-directional, what does that mean? This means that in the vocabulary of a coach, you will never find words such as you should, you must, you ought to, you've got to, you definitely have to. Words that are very, very directional and push the person in a certain direction forcefully. Now, is there anything wrong of being directional in some circumstances? No, there isn't anything wrong in being directional in the proper circumstances. For example, a ship, being a captain on a ship. A ship is not a democracy. There is a captain. There's a chain of command. And what the captain says, the crew obeys. Why? Because the survival of the ship depends on that. Or let's say you're in a building and there is a fire and somebody says, hello everybody, be quiet, listen to me and do exactly like I tell you to, and I will take you out of safety. If this happens, this will hardly be the time to call a meeting and discuss how to evacuate the building, right? So there are circumstances and situations where being directional is perfectly okay. Why we're bringing it up in this webinar, however, as a topic when it comes to coaching is because it is not okay when it happens within a coaching session. They have made studies that show that there are all kinds of types of coaching in the realm of 50 or 60 different types of coaching, like business coaching, relationship coaching, parent coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, sports coaching, creativity coaching, success coaching, and so forth. However, there is one type of coaching that you will never find, and that is directional coaching. Now, why is it important not to be directional with a client? When you are directional, you pretty much decide that you know better than the client what he needs to do. And you're telling him, do this or do that. However, what we as coaches are good at and should be good at is the art of coaching. Now, what our clients are good at is what they do. Whether it's in their business, they're good at their business. They understand their work. They understand their own world and their challenges. They're also the specialists and the expert in their own personal lives. We cannot ever assume that we know better than our clients. We're there to serve them, help them, encourage them, and unlock their creativity, unlock their hidden potential, and unlock all the resources that they may have forgotten that they possess, in order for them to resolve and solve the situations that they're in and find a way forward in the issue that they have to decide on and move forward in. Another very important principle is that that the coaches have no answer. I mean, in this particular listing, this particular point is listed as number 4. However, it in no way is the last in importance. In fact, you may say that this point of the coach has no answer is number 1 principle when it comes to coaching. Coaches have no answers. Sometimes I have had situations when I have explained what I do as a coach, and funny conversations have happened, especially when people hear for the first time what coaching is. And I had this, I was in a networking event one time, explaining at the table what coaching is and what coaching isn't. And one of the gentlemen sitting at the table said, "So tell me, you're telling me that I'm going to come with my problem, I'm going to sit with you, pay you a lot of money, and at the end of the day, you're not going to give me any answers?" So I did laugh, and yes, I did confirm that. However, it doesn't mean that the client leaves the conversation with no answers. Coaching is a very special type of conversation and a special type of process. The client does reach answers. The coaching process empowers the client to reach the type of answers that he needs to make a step forward and to grow and move forward into the direction of reaching and achieving their goals. But the important aspect to understand and to remember is that the answer doesn't come from the coach, it comes from the client as a result of his of the process of the thinking and decisions and discoveries and raised awareness that happens during the coaching session. So yes, coaches do not have the answer, and yes, coaching leads the client to the correct answers for them. There's an interesting thought which is attributed to Albert Einstein. Someone in the 40s of last century, he said, "In order to solve the problems which we currently face, we must access a higher level of intelligence than that which we used to originally create those problems." Now, I'm going to read this one more time, just so that it sinks in. In order to solve the problems which we currently face, we must access a higher level of intelligence than that which we used to originally create those problems. Now, what is interesting about this thought? What is interesting about what Einstein says? He actually says 2 very important things. There are 2 messages in this one thought. Now, one is not very popular, and it is the message that we actually have responsibility in creating the problems we face. This is not always a very popular concept, and you will recognize that it is so when you hear the way people talk about what surrounds them or what happens in their life. Like, oh, such and such happened to me, and I never wanted to be in this situation, but they made me be in this situation. Or whatever else they may be giving as an excuse as far as whatever people are facing. Now, one of the things that we as coaches help our clients with is to raise their awareness as well as their responsibility. Responsibility is an interesting word. It contains two things in one word: response and ability. When their awareness is raised, they understand better what their part in the equation is. And therefore, they are empowered to better respond to the situations and circumstances that surround them. Now, the other thing that Einstein's quote tells us is actually good news. And the good news is that we can solve the problems which we currently face. Regardless of what they are, we have the potential and the resources to solve those problems. Now, unfortunately, it's easy to forget that. And it's not something that the children are taught in school, for example, that they have the potential to solve anything that they're facing. Life happens, and we sometimes forget that we're these awesome creations. We're awesome human beings, full of energy, full of potential, full of wisdom, full of experience. And the most powerful truth about us is that we do have the resource and the ability to access anything we need in order to solve whatever we're facing. And here comes the role of the coach. When we work with our clients, our role is to remind them of the awesome potential that they have inside them, to remind them of the enormous capacity and the resources that they have available, they have access to in order to solve any problem, any issue that they're facing and move forward. We're there to remind them, to help them to unleash their potential, to unleash their genius, help them to find the sources of the resources which they have access to. Here's a wonderful definition of what coaching is. So coaching is about performing at your best through the individual and private assistance of someone who will challenge, stimulate, and guide you to keep growing. So this is what we do as coaches. We challenge, we stimulate, we help our clients to keep growing. How do we do this? Well, there's various ways that we accomplish that. And in the following webinars on the topics that are coming up in the next month, as part of the Practitioner Coach Diploma curriculum, we will be covering the various tools that a coach can use to assist a client and challenge and stimulate and guide them towards growing. There is coaching models. There is skills in listening, in questioning. There's the use of intuition, the intuition of being able to listen to your client and hear the really important things, the things that cannot be heard through the eyes. The really, really important things can be heard only with the heart. And the really essential things, so important, the most important things are usually invisible to the eyes. And this is what we listen to and hear through using our intuition and teaching our clients to do that, teaching them to access also the wisdom of their intuition, and so forth. So stay tuned. There will be a lot more interesting topics coming up your way in the following months. So I just want to close here with reading this definition of coaching once again. And it is that coaching is about performing at your best through the individual and private assistance of someone who will challenge, stimulate, and guide you to keep growing. Which means that you as coaches, your role is to help your clients to perform at their best. Everything is about them. It's not about us. It's not about us being the perfect coach. It's about them being the best, the most excellent version of themselves in their own lives and performing at their best through our assistance, through the individual and private assistance of someone, a coach, who will challenge, stimulate, and guide them to keep growing. All right. So at this point, I will open the floor to you if you would like to make any comments or if you have any questions about anything that we talked about in this presentation. Oh, also, welcome to the people that came a little later. Hello, Colin. And Violetta. Nice to see you on the call. Thank you, Colin. I appreciate your comment. Okay, let's see. There is something in chat. Violetta says hello. Hi. Okay. Meanwhile, while you're thinking of whether you would like to use the chance to ask a question or not, let me just add that this particular webinar is part of the Practitioner Coach Diploma course of No Manhattan Coaching. One of the things that distinguishes No Manhattan as a company from other coach training companies is the enormous emphasis we place on the continual professional development of the coaches that have trained with us. We provide support not only during your training, but also after you graduate and after you qualify. And these webinars are part of that continuous support. Every month, we have about 3 to 4 monthly webinars aimed at the support and development of our students during and after their graduation, the qualification. This particular type of webinars are the topical webinars that relate to the content of the Practitioner Coach Diploma curriculum. Besides that, we also offer webinars on coaching development and business development. Those webinars, however, they are not open to people who are not students. Until now, even the topical webinars were not available to the wider audience. However, from this year, we decided that we can do one more thing to contribute to the coaching community and share some of our resources with a larger audience. So we're hoping you're enjoying them. The webinars in English will be held every third Wednesday of the month. So therefore, the next webinar of the series will be on the 20th of April. Make sure you're there. And if you would like to contact me personally about anything, my contact details are here on the screen, my phone and my email. I will be very happy to hear from you and will be at your disposal if you need any further either mentoring or coaching or any other assistance relating to your coaching development. I can see a comment from Violetta. Thank you, Violetta. Thank you for the kind words of appreciation. Since it seems like you don't have any further questions, then I'd like to say thank you for participating in this webinar, and I look forward to talking with you again and seeing you at the next webinar in April. Thank you very much. I wish you a lovely evening and all the best. Bye-bye. Actually, let me say goodbye in person. I'm sorry that I cannot see you, but at least I can wave at you and blow some kisses. Look forward to the next time.
Katrin, many, many thanks. That was absolutely great. I've certainly taken away some very interesting information on that. And apart from anything else, it's certainly going to help me in the talk that I've got to perform in 8 days' time to people who really don't know anything about coaching at all. So that's a really good start, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I appreciate the feedback. I'm glad it was helpful. Okay, so I will stop the recording now, and we'll shortly also turn off the webinar. So here goes the recording.